Hello everyone, so I'm John and today we're going to be going over Tata Motors, which is the company we picked for our research project. So we're going to be going over the background, so the history of the company, international processes, management operations, and internal processes, and just how they work pretty much and what markets they're in, and also some recommendations and overall assessment of the company, plus our ideas to help it. So the background, Tata Motors Limited is a multinational commercial vehicle manufacturer, and its headquarters are in Mumbai, India. So the history of Tata Motors. So in 1945, Tata Motors, formerly Tata Engineering and Locomotive Company, Telco, was founded in 1945 when it manufactured locomotives. Then in 1954, they produced the first heavy-duty truck in India, and it was in a partnership with Daimler-Benz. In 1991, they reached a historic milestone. They made the Tata Sierra, which was the first SUV totally designed and produced in India. Then Tata Motors in 1998 reached new heights when they made the Tata Indica, which was the first passenger car developed completely in India, and it became the number one car in India in the car market within the first 2 years. And then here's two pictures. We have the Tata Sierra in 1991, and then the passenger car, the Tata Indica in 1998. So then some more history. They made the Tata Ace, which was introduced in 2005, and it was nicknamed Chota Hathi, which means small elephant, and it's India's most popular mini truck. The Ace is the biggest selling commercial vehicle brand in India and has allowed millions of Indians to become entrepreneurs. Then they made the most popular electric vehicle in India, which was the Nexon EV, and it was introduced in 2020 as part of the company's new Forever line, and this was the top-selling car in India in November 2025. And then here's some more pictures, the Tata Ace on the left, and then their new EV on the right, the Nexon. So some markets that their presence is in, India, as we know, that's where their headquarters are. Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, Bahrain, Egypt, Kuwait, Morocco, Qatar, Tunisia, Oman, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Bolivia, Paraguay. They're even in Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Angola, Ghana, and they're in African countries as well. As you can see, Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa, Uganda, Senegal, Zambia, Tanzania, the Ivory Coast, Mozambique, the Republic of Congo. Then for their pestle analysis, so political, they communicate with governments and countries where vehicles are sold. They're economic, the prices of materials affect production of vehicles, for example, aluminum. Social, they react to changing consumer preferences and create new products based on innovation, such as the electric vehicle that they just made. Then for technological, they research and develop to keep up with advances. Legally, they comply with emissions laws in countries where all their vehicles are sold. And for environmental, they respond to climate change and they respond to green initiatives. Internationalization, strategy, and stage. So they're entities cooperating across national boundaries. They first became dominant in India, of course, as we know, and then they expanded to other emerging markets. Then to develop economies of scale that would hedge Tata Motors only in India against any downturn that they might have, they acquired Daewoo in South Korea in 2004 and Jaguar and Land Rover in Great Britain in 2008. And then here, just some modes of entry, some of their acquisitions. Daewoo, as we know, South Korea. It's a whole owned subsidiary by them. Iveco proposed in 2025. Tata has agreed to buy them for 4.36 billion, and they're a truck maker based in Turin, Italy. And then the Jaguar Land Rover in Britain in 2008. Then some of their joint ventures, Hitachi, between Tata Motors of India and Hitachi Construction Machinery of Japan. Stellantis is a joint venture between Tata and Stellantis, which makes engines and vehicle components for Fiat and Tata. And then Marco Polo is a joint venture between Tata and Marco Polo of Brazil. And then some international processes are next.
Hello, my name's Nevaeh, and I will be doing the section of the international processes for Tata Motors. So that includes planning, management, and strategy. So, before we get into the international processes, I'm going to talk about Tata Group, which is a multinational conglomerate with over 100 companies in various different sectors. And so, to put this into perspective, I've created a relationship chart to show the largest valued companies in within Tata Group. Obviously, we're going to be focusing on Tata Motors, which is in the automotive sector. And we can also see here that they have acquired Jaguar and Land Rover, which are premium luxury automobiles. So they are going to play a role in their international processes as well. So, capacity planning. Tata Motors has a large range of capacity planning, and they're not just centralized in one place. They manage a big global grid of about 25 manufacturing plants and assembly sites across India, the UK, Europe, South Africa, and Asia. So, to kind of give a quick look, here is a chart designed to show all of their hands in. So, they have 125 countries that they are located in, 25 facilities, 3 design labs, and 9 research and development centers. And their capacity planning is about deciding which part of the company should carry which product demand for the company. And this is important for Tata Motors because they are transitioning into a long term goal of being an electrical vehicle company rather than gas automobiles. Now I'm breaking down their global capacity just a little bit more. So at the bottom of the pyramid is India, which is where Tata Motors has the majority of their production for their mass market passenger cars and commercial vehicles. Then in the middle, we have the United Kingdom, which is where most of the Jaguar Land Rover production happens. We're going to be referring to that as JLR for the rest of the presentation. And they are mainly there for the cost of doing service because JLR has higher margins and they have premium pricing. So they export their goods. Specifically, JLR exports their products to other areas of the country, while Tata Motors has other plants, which is at the top of the pyramid, located in regional areas where it benefits them. So these regional areas include Europe, South Africa, Asia, etc., because it lets them serve local markets a little bit easier. And for capacity planning for Tata is just about deciding how volume should run through India and the UK and then into the regional hubs. So, pivoting towards their corporate strategy, in India, Tata is mainly focused on passenger and commercial vehicles, like I said, and that's where they play on their volume and affordability. While it's a little different for the United Kingdom because they are mainly focused on their luxury vehicles with premium features and higher margins. And also in the UK, they have opened a battery production facility instead of outsourcing the electrical vehicle batteries. And this was a good inventory decision and corporate strategy. So, together, we can see that these look like a transnational approach. And a transnational strategy is basically an approach that aims to adapt to consumer needs based on the local responsiveness and consumer market. So, their international strategic management, I'm just kind of connecting how the company is managed internationally. So, at a corporate level, Tata Motors manages a multinational brand and they have their decisions on overall strategy, major investments, and all of the risk, which is basically the high level top. And then in the UK, the JLR brand is in the UK based on using luxury vehicle to its gain, so it competes in the luxury market and management focuses more on the design, the technology, and really on the brand image because for premium vehicles, it's a lot different than for mass market vehicles like Tata Motors. And then I wanted to touch on their Reimagine plan, which is their long term goal of being electric first and net zero emissions by 2039, which is a very big, daunting goal to have. Now their risk management, they use a formal enterprise risk management framework, which a lot of automobile manufacturers do. And they basically use this framework to identify risks and then take how serious they are and then decide how to respond. And we'll touch upon this on the next slide a little bit more detailed. So, at the global level, they worry about things like demand cycles, supply chain disruptions, and new regulations such as stricter emission rules or climate policies. The new regulations on climate change is a bit more on the back burner because they have, like I said, had that reimagine plan. So they're definitely focused on net zero emissions. So that's not as big of a risk for them. But what is a big risk is like a recent event, as we all know, the pandemic, COVID. They had supply shortages like a lot of companies across the world. And it basically showed kind of the risks that they had when they shut plants or delayed new products because they use a just in time inventory management network. And we'll also touch upon that later on. So, to deal with this, Tata relies on having diverse production locations. Like I said before, they have plants located in regional areas that like benefit where they are meeting consumer needs. And they use formal risk committees at the group level that regularly review and update their risk responsiveness. So, to break down the ERM framework, Tata first identifies the risks that affect their business goals. Obviously, each business and company around the world have different business objectives. So for Tata, they use their business goals and they try to identify the risks that will affect their core principles. Then they assess the impact that they have on the risk. So once they identify a risk, they have to assess how much of an impact it will have. And then they prioritize the risks based on their profitability changes. So, what would cause the biggest changes in their performance in the market? Then they create a mitigation plan. So things like hedging, alternate suppliers, cyber protections, or new policies. And then they monitor the plan and track how well their action plan is working instead of in theory in real life. So, Tata Motors optimizes for key priorities like cost efficiency in India and Asia, their high quality premium production in the UK, and their electrical vehicle supply security, having to be flexible in the electrical vehicle market. So, we're kind of looking at the operation strategy and we have a slight focus on the United Kingdom on this slide. So, JLR runs a premium manufacturing facilities with key sites like Halewood, and they have significant research and development centers there. These centers are key to their long term goal of being net zero emissions. And at the same time, there is a priority difference between Tata Motors and JLR, their subsidiary. Their priorities are quality assurance, brand image, and profitability, just a little bit more because of their premium and higher margins compared to Tata Motors. And their operation strategy is just really aligning with the United Nations footprint with their premium cars and their transitions to electrical vehicle and sustainability that a lot of people are on the road to. Now, moving towards their quality assurance and performance, they sell luxury goods as well as mass market goods, but it's a little bit similar in how they identify their quality and performance. They use customer feedback and experience data to spot issues and areas to improve. And on the performance side, they use financial reports and KPIs to track how well their operations are running and what might need to change. And this is very similar to a lot of automobile companies using financial reports like revenue growth, profitability, and then KPIs like margins, delivery, analyze performance, and supply chain disruptions as well. And then on to their sales and operations planning. So, planning links global demand forecasts to UK plans. So, they use their demand forecast to tell the UK plant how much they should make and produce, so that capacity and then their demand stays balanced, especially since they use a just in time focused inventory management. Their marketing planning in the UK is tailored to the luxury segment rather than the mass market, like in India. And then for risk management, they obviously have teams designed to use the framework. And then post cyber attack, they did have a large cyber attack. There's been a much stronger focus for them on planning for disruptions and building a new IT system. For their decision making, they have two sections. So the Tata Motors board focuses on their group strategy, major business objectives, and the asset management. Then for specific products branding, the UK operations takes that and uses that for the JLR team. So that's the management that takes on that role. And then from the day to day on their plants, research centers, design hubs, there's managers and supervisors. So their process strategy is kind of how they work across borders, and they are obviously going between a lot of regions. So they use research and development plants across UK and India to share the knowledge on product development. Then for global sourcing, they rely on suppliers across Europe and Asia so that they can get cost advantages and less exposure to supply chain disruptions. And then finally, for distribution, specifically JLR exports the luxury vehicles built in the UK to other markets, and all the logistics and shipping are a key important in their process. And then all of these processes have to be coordinated internationally to keep new models coming in on time. And then taking a step back on how they work and the product is organized from the initial design to the hands of the customer. First, Tata Motors is design. So engineers decide how the vehicles look, what the features are, specifications. Then comes in with sourcing, which components do they have to source, which components are they making rather than buying in-house. Then they paint the components, then they assemble the parts, then they test for safety, performance standards, quality assurance, like we were mentioning earlier, and then shipment. So the finished cars are sent to the dealers in the UK, and then they are exported to the other countries if need be. Otherwise, their production facilities in the regional areas will do this on their own. So, now to their inventory management. Like I said, they have to coordinate a lot of raw materials, components, and their finished product inventories. So, Tata's a little bit different. They have a lot of they use a mix of inventory management techniques, but the main one that I was seeing was the just-in-time approach, which is usually what automobile manufacturers kind of rely on. Um, Obviously, during COVID, this was very detrimental to their finished products, and there was major supply chain disruptions. But for their more rare components, they have now shifted to making them rather than buying. So the batteries for their electric vehicles, they have decided to make rather than buy. And then after COVID, they use they use mixes of the just-in-time approach, lean manufacturing, and advanced forecasting. So kind of looking at the demand or trying to predict the demand of the consumer market before they buy raw components, raw materials, components, etc. And then lastly, I have here is the international resource planning. So Tata Motors and JRL have the right skills and plant upgrades in the UK to execute their electrical vehicle long-term strategy plan. So this is kind of just about their resource planning in general, and that is people, capital, and technology. So, on the people side, Tata invests in employee training and electrical vehicle skills, especially at factories as products become more electric centered and digital focused, especially in the world of AI. On the capital side, major projects like the battery factory represent long term commitments to support Tata's strategic goals in electrical vehicles and sustainability, as well as their 9 research and development centers and their design hubs. They have used their capital and investment wisely. And then for technology, it's a good example that we use the Howwood factory, which now includes 750 robots used in for assembly lines and a new cloud-based digital system to manage production. And overall, research planning is just about making sure that Tata Motors have the right skills, funding, and technology in the right place, also in the right countries to execute their strategy for until 2039.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jonathan, and moving forward with the international supply chain management and design, Tata splits its supply chain between both countries. Premium components are handled in the UK, while large volume parts are produced more affordably in India. They also rely on suppliers from Europe and China, which does give them flexibility. Brexit forced Tata to rethink customs routes and adjust their sourcing strategies, and the chip shortage pushed them to diversify so that production doesn't get interrupted again. Moving on with international logistics management, most cars that are built in the UK are shipped to more than 100 global markets, so that their main export ports are Southampton and Liverpool. And Tata works hard to reduce delivery time and shipping costs because that does protect their profit. And with electric vehicles, logistics gets even more challenging since batteries require strict safety standards and careful handling throughout transportation. International human resource planning. Tata uses a polycentric approach in the UK, meaning that most managers and engineers there are local. This does help the company stay aligned with UK culture and customer expectations. India does, however, still lead in overall strategy, so both markets stay connected and consistent. And because EV technology is growing fast, the company focuses heavily on developing sustainability knowledge and advanced engineering skills in its workforce. JLR brand power in the UK. So, Jaguar and Land Rover are extremely strong brands in the UK and Europe. Excuse me. Since Tata owns them, that reputation lifts the entire company. So JLR's engineering and technology help improve Tata vehicles in other regions of the world, which gives Tata a huge advantage over companies that don't have a premium brand connected to them. Moving on with the challenges in the internalization process, even with strong brands, Tata does face several challenges. For example, a competitive competition in the UK is fierce. They do go up against brands like BMW, Mercedes, and Tesla in the premium market. So the shift to fully electric production also requires a lot of investment, so it does increase financial pressure. Additionally, Brexit continues to create uncertainty around pricing and supplier relationships, and the Tata name itself isn't very well known in Europe, which means growing the brand will take time. Opportunities in the internalization process. On the positive side, the UK is a global leader in luxury EV innovation. So, expanding their puts Tata at the center of technology development. The government also does support companies that invest in green manufacturing and research, which reduces costs and encourages growth. And moreover, JLR innovation does help Tata improve product quality everywhere else. And in the future, Tata has the chance to introduce more affordable Indian made EVs into Europe, where prices are currently very high. Stock market listings and performance. So, Tata Motors trades on the Bombay Stock Exchange, known as the BSE, and the National Stock Exchange, known as the NSE, in India. So, that does give them strong trading volume. They also have an American depository receipt listing in New York, which allows international investors to buy shares more easily. As the UK business continues to recover, the stock becomes more attractive. Investors also like commitment Tata is making toward electric vehicles in the UK because that supports long-term growth. Tata Motors stock trend. As we can see from this chart, Tata's stock performance has improved as its EV has grown stronger. The success of the Land Rover and production results in the UK have had a major impact on investor confidence. When the UK side performs well, Tata's overall stock does tend to rise. So, it just shows that the international market isn't just kind of like a side project. It does really drive the company's value. And as you can see on the chart here, within the past 2 years, the stock has gone up 9%, which is a positive for the company. So now we're moving on to the conclusion and overall assessment. So overall, Tata Motors has gained a real competitive advantage by expanding into the UK. EV leadership is becoming one of the most important pieces of the company's identity, but there are still areas to improve, though. So, especially in the supply chain stability after Brexit. But the strength of JLR and the growing global presence of Tata show that the company is moving in a strong and successful direction. So that leads us into why the UK matters. The UK is a premium automotive market that does have a lot of influence. It offers one of the strongest engineering environments in the world, especially for electric vehicles. And being successful here does improve Tata's global image, and it does help them compete directly with world leading brands. And additionally, the expansion has transformed Tata from mainly a regional brand to a real global player. Now, moving on to the recommendations for the future, more specifically the short term. I believe that Tata should introduce more Tata branded EVs into the UK market just so that the brand can gain more recognition outside of the Jaguar and Land Rover, essentially. And that the company should also strengthen its marketing, especially around sustainability to build awareness faster. And improving supply availability, especially chips and batteries, will help keep production moving smoothly. And now, recommendations for the long term. Looking forward, Tata should expand EV exports from the UK into the rest of Europe to increase global market share. And additionally, they should continue investing in advanced engineering skills so their workforce is fully prepared for future EV technology. And lastly, by making sustainability a major focus, Tata can stand out from German competitors like BMW and just essentially build a stronger international identity. These were our references, and thank you for listening.